Welcome to Recovery Recreation Television. I'm your host, Susie Lordy. I'm also the founder and president of a 501c3 nonprofit here in Massachusetts called 24 Hour Power, Inc. And we do recovery art all over the state of Massachusetts. Now, what we found before the pandemic hit was when we were at our outdoor events, people would come up to us and they were saying things like, Susie, there's nothing fun going on around here. Now, we know that's not true, but we also knew that a lot of people may be relocated to places that they didn't grow up in, and they don't know what's going on. So we made it our mission to go out and hunt down stories from one zip code all the way to the other in Massachusetts to let you know what's fun, what's cool, what's hip, what's sober going on in the state of Massachusetts every single month. So welcome to Recovery Recreation. Don't think you can't have fun sober? You just haven't hung out with us yet. And here with us today to get us started for this episode of Recovery Recreation is a very good friend of ours. This is John Messia. John is the Director of Constituent Services and the Chair of the Health Equity Task Force for the City of Brockton. John, it is so great to have you with us here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
You are the most professionally hands-on person I know, John. And you're involved in so many initiatives to better the city of Brockton. We don't have time to cover them all on this show, that's for sure. It's only a 30-minute show. So what we're going to do is we're going to just try to focus today on all of the ways that you personally help to promote at the city level, how to get creativity in our great city to get us through the pandemic, because let's face it, we really need stuff to help us dial down, and art is a wonderful panacea for that.
What we do, and I focus on as the chair of the task force, is equity, to work in collaboration with all organizations like yourself, 24 Hour Power, great friendship and working relationship. So across the city communities, I try to engage to build that equity and collaboration, many efforts from literature to posting on billboards, BAT buses, just constantly trying to get out the message of COVID and working on the protocols. But now we're into a new phase, which is the vaccination. We're going into that vaccination phase and that trust building. So 2021, of course, brings on new challenges, but we're ready in the City of Champions to face them.
Absolutely. And you're involved in everything from the artistic standpoint to the creative content that winds up on the billboards in the city, right? Which yes. I know that you have some that are focusing on the COVID-19 vaccine right now.
Yes, we are. We're trying to build that trust within the communities. Brockton's a hugely diverse city. It's a city of immigrants that came to the city, like back my generation of Italians, and there was Irish that came in, the Greeks and the Polish. Now we have the Nigerians, the Angolans, the Cape Verdeans, the Haitians. We have it all. We have it all in Brockton, and we're focusing on building that trust within those communities through the leadership and organizations in the communities.
Yes, and the mask making campaign that we worked on with your office personally and with the Brockton Public Schools, we're hoping to see some in different languages as well.
That would be fantastic, that campaign. I applaud your efforts, the Education Equity Subcommittee on the Health Equity Task Force that come up with this idea on the 6th and 7th graders are starting it off the end of this month, the 26th. We're kicking it off. Raodee did a great instructional video to do in the art classes, and we're going to let the kids express their freedom of voice and their expressions to what they're feeling about COVID in their multi-language. And I think it's really going to be a huge success, and then we'll bring it back to the 4th and 5th graders in May. I'm stoked to see it happen. So yes, this mask making campaign, it was a terrific idea. I applaud all the efforts from 24 Hour Power and Education Equity Subcommittee, who actually their members come up with the idea to implement this through the art classes in Brockton Public Schools. And What a wonderful idea to let the kids have the freedom of speech in their own languages to express what they're thinking and feeling with COVID-19. This campaign is going to start with the 6th and 7th graders, and then we are going to bring it to the 4th and 5th graders, and we're going to actually decorate and do creative masks, about 4,000 of them. And I just can't wait. And they will be a competition, and there'll be incentives and role models, and the mayor will applaud, of course, all participants, but the winners will be posted, and they'll get to actually take their picture with the mayor of the city.
Yes, and actually we have the director of the art department, Sarah Richards, will also be on this program. She'll be talking about this a little later on. And the real treat that we also have is we're going to have the finished video that our master graffiti artist, Raodee Rekloos, did the actual Zoom tutorial for those kids. So more will be revealed as the show goes on. Let's get back to the creative endeavors now for the city of Brockton. Okay, Tukas Park's coming up. I know we're going to do a lot of artwork there with the city of Brockton. There's even a bridges proposal that you're looking at.
It's Vax Facts, that DPH puts out, but we're going to try to do it in our own creative way. And we're looking at this one particular grant that we can access and be able to fund this project and bring on the artists to actually do creative graphic art underneath those bridges downtown Brockton and have the different messages for all the constituents and residents.
Be great in a bunch of different languages to reflect the community. Just give us one challenge that you face regarding COVID-19 as someone that's working in the mayor's office.
Well, this would go back to the vaccination hesitancy within the communities, mentioning the diversity in the city. So the one phase we're in right now, and I'm working with the Health Equity Task Force and rolling out this phase, is to build that trust and to get the key leaders within those organizations to go into the communities and build the trust, because they're the people in those communities, and we need to put those faces to be recognized. If they recognize their leaders, they're apt to have a conversation, and that conversation is going to extend to the possibility of them getting vaccinated. And with us doing that grassroots movement, I'm optimistic to see Brockton move forward and have a higher percentage than other cities with the vaccination.
Absolutely. Where do you see us with the war on COVID-19 heading into the summer?
I honestly see Brockton with how the collaboration is and how many people are rolling up their sleeves and doing what's necessary for Brockton, the city of champions. I see us honestly being a notch above the other cities. Not that we don't have more work to do, but I feel that everyone's on board with this effort, from our DPH liaison all the way to our Board of Health. So I see Brockton being positively and optimistically in a good place for the city of Brockton in the summer months. And I can't wait to see how Brockton rises above.
You think we'll be in the yellow, John? Out of the red and into the yellow?
I do think so. With hard work, we can be there, and we can be trending downwards where obviously we want to be.
Absolutely. John, it's such a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks so much for taking time out of your wicked busy schedule to be with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And thanks for all you do. Stick around. We'll be right back. Peace out. COVID-19 has hit our schools so hard. It's been a real struggle out there, finding ways to make kids feel safe and stable, let alone feel creative. But we know one way that works for sure is art, creative expression in so many different forms. From kindergarten to college, we need to find ways to allow our kids to express themselves, especially during this pandemic. So what we bring to you on this episode of Recovery Recreation are some leaders that are blazing positive new paths during these uncharted times. And here with us today is Sarah Richards. Sarah is the Director of Art grades K through 12 for the Brockton Public Schools. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Before we get into how COVID-19 has affected your kids, just could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you're at today?
Sure, of course. I grew up in Middleborough, and I went to high school there and really was active in the art department there. I went off to Mass College of Art. I loved mass art. I majored in photography there, really found a home there, and then found a home in the art education department there, and really fell in love with that and could mix my photography with teaching and my love, communicating my love with kids. So after that, I started teaching in Brockton. I actually taught at the Plouffe Elementary School for 7 years. And I loved it there, but I still always wanted to teach photography. So then when I had a chance to move up to, I did a middle school, high school split, teaching some photo at the high school. And then I was full-time at the high school for quite a while. And then I became the director. So that's how I ended up in this job. I also have a master's degree from Lesley University that really changed the way I thought about teaching and thought about education in general. So I really loved that program, and I'm just happy to be here. I've been in Brockton for 25 years. It's home to me, and I love this community. I love these kids, and it's just a pleasure to come every day and work with them and see their creativity. And my favorite thing to do is walk through the art rooms, especially at the high school. I'll just go sit down in the studio and just talk to kids about what they're doing. That's my favorite part of the day.
That's neat. Well, they're lucky to have you, Sarah.
Thank you.
So now let's talk about COVID-19 and how that's affected how you've been teaching kids this year. What have been some of the challenges? What are some of the victories? Yeah,
well, it's been a big challenge, but I think we've really, we've come a long way with it. When we closed down last March, we had kids at home, and teachers were sending out assignments and projects, and that was good in the spring. We got the kids doing a lot of stuff. But then come September, when you realize that kids were still going to be home, we weren't coming back. We really had to adjust our thinking, because in art, we're heavily product based, right? And so at home, kids don't have all these supplies and all these things. And we did send home some watercolors and oil crayons and stuff like that, but it's not the same. So we really shifted our thinking to be more processed and creative, thought-based rather than product-based. So we're walking kids through the artistic cycle of developing an idea, coming up with sketches, coming up with a final idea, and then executing it that way. We became very flexible in the material. So even at the Angelo School, I have a wonderful teacher, Miss RT, and she did color wheels with her kids. So they learned how to do color wheels, but some of them drew it with crayon. One girl used all these different hair scrunchies and made a color wheel out of her hair scrunchies. One kid did it out of fruit. They cut up fruit, so they took pictures. So we tried to focus on the thinking and the concepts and not so much on the end product. The other thing we really focused on was their emotional and social well-being, right? So using art as a way for kids to express what's happening, what's going on with them. So a lot of stuff about identity, who they are, who they think, what's going on in their family and their culture and how they want to express that. What are their interests? We also did a kindness poster. Some of the elementary schools did kindness posters. So just sending messages out to their community, supportive messages. So we really tried to focus on that social and emotional piece and really making connections with kids.
I love to see how the pandemic has really stretched the creativity, the imagination, and really what we can do with students today.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed hearing everything that you've been working on. This is awesome.
Yeah. And I'm really impressed with the kids. When I was going in and watching some of these remote classes, they've mastered the computer. They know how to use the chat. They know how to use their camera to take pictures with their computer. The stuff they've learned this year is unbelievable. And they're very independent. We have first graders and second graders, asking questions in the chat or asking for help or, taking pictures or talking to their classmates. It's been really, I think there's been a lot of good.
That's awesome. Well, 24 Hour Power has been blessed with the opportunity to bring a unique art project to the Brockton Public Schools, graffiti mask making. and talk about a cool Zoom tutorial. And you were so open, Sarah. We're so grateful to think way out of the box with us, and we thank you so much for that. Who's going to see this tutorial?
Well, we're focusing on our middle school students for the masks, and some high school, a couple classes at the high school, illustration and some drawing and painting, but mainly the middle school kids is where we figured we'd start. So they'll be seeing this tutorial, and then they'll be creating masks. And I think we're going to ask them to try to communicate something about themselves through these masks. So again, their identity, some of those same themes we've been focusing on all year, their identity or things that are important to them, or a call for activism.
Now, are there going to be some kind of best of class chosen?
So we will collect the four best from each middle school,
Nice.
And then the high school, and then we'll put them along. We'll probably display them around the city in some way, and certainly virtually we'll display them.
There's still so much left of the school year, believe it or not. May and then June. So what are a couple of quick highlights that we can look forward to creatively from Brockton Public Schools before the school year is out?
The art department, that's kind of our busiest time of year. So we're starting off with the musical. We're actually doing an outside musical this year on the steps of the Fine Arts Building.
Oh, nice.
And it's going to be a musical review. So it'll have different numbers from different musicals. So that's the 14th and 15th of May. And then we also have virtual shows coming up. So we have the Harbor One. Harbor One sponsors our art show and prizes every year for our high school students. We'll do that virtually. It'll be on our website. We also will have a K-5 show that will be on our website. We're also having a very special senior show at the Fuller Craft Museum that will be up July, August, probably September too. All this information will be on our website, Brockton Public Schools, so it's bpsma.org.
Sarah, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you and having you visit us on our program today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And stick around, we'll be right back. Till then, peace out.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Raodee. We're here at Brockton High today. We're going to be talking about stenciling some COVID masks so you guys can customize your own cool mask at home or in school. Stretch out this mask here. Just going to want to get all this tape around the outside where we aren't putting any paint, just so we know that it's all stretched out. Okay, so now that we have our mask all taped up, we're going to take our base stencil, and if you need to reposition your mask at all, now would be a good time while you're putting the stencil down and get it as flat as possible as the mask, just like we did before. We're going to tape that down so it doesn't move, and we have a nice clear space. Now that we have our base stencil secured to the mask, we can start putting some paint down. You want to make sure that you're getting nice, even, long strokes so that you're not getting too much paint in any of these areas, especially around the edge of the stencil here. You want to get as cleanly around there as possible. And one thing that I do if I'm using brushes for stencils, when I'm applying paint to stencils this way, I like to sort of go over the edge of the stencil and drag the paint down so that I have a clean line right at the edge of my stencil. Now that I have all this paint packed into the mask here, we're going to want to dry this off. So now that we got our first layer on our 2-layer stencil down and it's dry, we can remove the first layer and we can add the second layer on top of that. So now what I want to do is I want to slim this down a little bit so I can tape it down and get our details in. When you're cutting 2-layer stencils or stencils with more detail, you're going to want to add in bridges to your detail layers. And bridges are these little connectors here that keep the paper where you want it. Over here, one of my bridges is miraculously gone now, so I'm going to rebuild the bridge and show you guys how to do that. Basically, I'm using a piece of painter's tape. It's easy to remove, it's easy to work with. Place down a piece of tape. I don't want all this tape in here though, so I'm going to recreate my bridge and then cut away the excess tape. Here we go. Repaired my bridge, and now we have a safe structure to work with. It's not going to fall apart when we tape it down. Basically, I'm just trying to make sure that my stencils line up to get it exactly where I want my details, and then I tape it down. I was originally going to use the smaller bristle brush for this layer, but I think I might just use the foam brush. It seems like it might be a little bit easier. Like I said before, you're gonna wanna start at the edge of your paint, pull the paint out away from the glob. I'm just gonna wanna make sure that I'm holding down the section with my finger that I'm applying the paint to so that I can get a nice even application through the stencil. Just making sure that I'm going over these areas multiple times so I can pack in a good amount of paint so that I'm left with a nice image. Before I pull the stencil up, I'm gonna hit it with the dryer again. Now that the paint is dry, magically, with the hair dryer, we're gonna remove the stencil and reveal our amazing image. I hope you are as excited as I am. And there you have it. Baseball. 2-layer stencil, ready to go. Just make sure you're being creative. You can do any design that you want. I mean, I did a baseball, but you guys can draw anything you want. Get creative, show who you are, you know? Awesome, that came out really well. Okay, moving right along. Now that we've gotten our 2-layer stencil done, we're gonna talk a little bit more about a more simpler procedure. This is a 1-layer stencil. This is just a simple 1-color design that you can put down really quickly, and that'll give your mask some cool flair. Before I bring the mask back out though, I just want to show you guys how I cut these stencils. This is called an X-Acto knife. It's a very sharp knife. You want to be super careful when you're using it. I basically just freehanded this image here, and now I'm going to cut all the black away. So another thing I just wanted to mention really quick, while you're cutting this stencil and you have the knife to the paper, you don't want to make the corners with your knife. You want to move the paper underneath your knife in a way that's going to give you the corners that you're looking for. Because if you try and maneuver this knife around too much inside of the paper, it can veer off and you might get cuts that you're not really looking for. Your best option is to just plant the knife really well into the paper and then slide that around when you need to move it. There you have it. This is our 1-layer stencil. Cut away as much of this excess paper as I can just so I have a better application of the actual stencil. If you get any excess paint on your stencil, like say if I got paint on the back of my stencil here, don't worry about it. Just make sure that you get that paint off if it's not the color that you're looking to put onto your mask. Alright, now let's grab our mask. And again, before you guys put anything down on this, you want to make sure that you tape it down really well. While I'm pushing this down, I am applying a fairly good amount of pressure because I want to get this cardstock as close to the mask as possible. I cannot say that enough. So for this particular 1-color stencil, we're going to be using this foam brush. So when I'm applying the paint to the brush, I'm putting the brush right to the edge of the paint and I'm pulling it back so that I can get a nice even coat of paint. And I don't have too much anywhere on here that I don't want it. These brushes here are going to act just sort of like a stamp. You just get that right in there, nice and evenly. And again, just to get right up to the edge of the lines, you can go over the image a little bit and sort of press towards the outside of your stencil here, and that'll get your paint right up to the line where you want it. And at this point too, if you wanted to add some different colors to your stencil, if you wanted, 1-layer stencil, but you can add multiple colors to your stencil. If you wanted to make different colored petals, or you wanted to make the stem different color, you could do that too just by adding different colors now. Once I'm happy with the application of the color, I can just jump right into drying the paint. We'll be good to go. So today we talked a lot about stencils and painting on these masks, but I just wanted to show you guys something really quick. You don't need a ton of supplies. You could get regular Sharpies or any type of markers. This here is a paint marker. These are very good. Anything you can use is cool, but the biggest point is to just express yourself, write your name on here. You could use, say you speak a different language, you could write anything you want in your language on here. Get out there, put yourself on your masks. Even though you're covering your mouth, you can still use your voice and show exactly who you are. Thank you guys for joining me. My name is Raodee. I had an amazing time today. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Have fun.
On behalf of our staff from Recovery Recreation Television, we wish you all a beautiful May. Don't think you can't have fun sober. You just haven't hung out with us yet. Till next time, peace out.